conjunction with that, might be a very nice move here into a base 10 type of setup. We're right at the 10-minute channel line extrapolated from yesterday, and even encapsulating this morning's high as well. So we do need to break through this area here.
It's nice to see the ergs all somewhat nice sine wave patterns.
Yeah, there is some consistency in that pretty much right across the board here.
3 minutes are starting to get a little bit of separation on them. Some of the previous days, some of them have been out of sync. It's not as nice to trade in those situations. Nice. We had a 20-point range yesterday, a little bigger than a 20-point range. Typically, we have an 8 to 12-point range. Market's opening up a little bit more. When you have bigger trading ranges, oftentimes there's more opportunity for trades. Market goes on a 2 or 3, 4-point run, it's easier to pick off a point or two here or there. Long term, if we can just get a point a day.
Perhaps keep our eyes open here for an EK down in conjunction with the 3 minutes and the 1 minutes, Greg. Let's just look for that to form potentially. In the throes of us looking for the 10 minutes to turn here the other direction.
So that would be a sell we'd be looking at. We see that K attack coming up very strong. The better EKs are when that K attack is crossing the green line. Did move down here nicely, 3 or 4 ticks. It didn't have a sell signal. Stronger ones obviously match up everything. Match up the EK with the sell signal, with the 1 minute's turning or the 317's turning. 3 minutes going down.
We do have a one volume of 3-1 right now. C bias angled ever so slightly down. Let's see when these 317s turn, if that still is in play. It may not be. We're looking at almost an EK up here with an F bias spike as well. Contrary to our 3 minutes though. So not a white arrow, not a buy signal we can look to take here. Let's see if this begins to move up here. We're still at the top of the 10-minute channel line. We're in this zone of looking like we're changing, but still possible to come down in this range again before doing that. Can look for another possible EK down here. Sell arrow, red arrow. I did get in there at 38.25 and got a tick there on that. Starting to see some bias angle in the B bias, Greg.
Still at the top of this 10-minute trend line. If we can break through there, we get a little angle on the A bias, G attack cross. Although our 5-minute, one of the ergs is flattening. Got our 3s turning mid-cycle. See if we can push up through here over the next little bit.
Got an E bias and an F bias just spiking down here. Got one of the 3 minutes is green though.
There she is.
Again, a spike down here, but our 3 minutes are a little inconsistent. Spike down in the EK, but 1 minute's angled down as well.
Had a 7-point range this morning, and we're right in the middle of that.
Starting to see the C bias again, angle down. Might have a 1C and a 1D here. We don't have a sell signal here, and we move down a little bit. Let's see if we bounce off this 37.75 here, 37.50. Doesn't look like we are. Maybe the 36.75. Again, our 10 minutes are entirely inconsistent now. One's down, one's up. Bias is starting to angle down again, though, after having come up. 5 minutes starting to flatten.
That was a very nice little move there. We had the C, D, E biases all down. 1 minute ergs and volume ergs. Just needed the signal.
We do have a 1C, but again, it's moved ahead now. Two
Yeah.
odd points, Greg, so
Yep.
I'd like to see a pullback here. Tomorrow's a Fed day, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Two p.m. Eastern is the Fed meeting minutes. Wholesale inventories and crude inventories come out earlier in the day. Medium, low impact events. Got the EK moving back up here. 317. Don't have the 3 minute with it, which the 1 minute.
Need to see those 1 minutes angle down a little bit more to match that C bias in terms of a 1C down. Let's see what happens after our move up here. Certainly have an EK had that sort of spiking, but contrary to the 3 minutes there. 317s were in the midst of starting to turn, but it did get a burst of momentum there. The tail end of that moved up another point and a bit. And come down just as fast, Greg, with the 317s turning.
Again, we're just trading in a tighter range here. We're just waiting for a little more clarity. Some of the charts got some nice biases on the 3 minute and coming in on the E and the F. Of course, D is going the other way. I'd like to see a nice strong angle on our biases.
And I think just with the strength of the bias in the C, and we may eventually just come down here to this 3650 again. We almost hit it there on that push down on the 317s, the E bias, C bias. Our ones are in the midst of turning here, so still only one good EK that we had there for that one tick. So far, that is all that we have at the moment.
We are close to, we get down to 3650. Overnight, the market hit 33 and a quarter. Yesterday, the low was 34.50 after a 20s plus point drop. So we may be trying to establish a bottom here. We see on the upper side that 10-minute channel line is near 39 or so, 39, 39.50, maybe even 40. So starting to trade in a smaller zone, waiting for a breakout. Of course, on the top side, if we can break through there, we could head back up to 46. See where we were yesterday afternoon. Be another level then to get through. But yeah, right now we're just moving up and down here in this tighter range.
3 minutes turning, but C bias down, D bias down, volumes turning, 317s turning the other direction. Both 5 minutes have gone red as both 3 minutes have gone green, or flashing red in the case of that one 5 minute, and now in the case of that one 3 minute flashing green. So Greg, just proceed to move sideways in a slightly bigger time frame here, or a slightly bigger range, 40 to 36.50, 37. C bias spiking down even more here. Let's see if we can get a turn in 5 minute. One of them's turned, the other one's sort of flat. B bias is down as well. A bias is down. This is really building bias weight to the red side in the bigger charts, Greg, but we just don't have ergodics that are in agreement here yet, really across 10, 5, and 3.
5, 3, 1s, and 317 are all pretty flat, actually, the ergodics. And been like that the last couple of minutes.
Starting to get close to a 3D, 3C, 3B. Those 3 minutes seem to be the first to start to turn. 5's maybe following now. Let's see if ourselves have another pullback here. The signal's already moved ahead 1.5 points. We need to see pullback here. So 3B right now. And Greg, I think we're pretty much at a 5A. So that one is now really curving down, which is nice. Still have yet to see that pullback that we want to see. I know we did get an arrow there, but we're very close to the low even from yesterday. Low from yesterday looks like it is around 35.25, 35.50, sorry, 34.50, 34.25. So we're pretty much at it right now. Let's see if we can have a pullback here. This is really developing into something that will be potentially a stronger move down here, especially breaking that low from yesterday by a few ticks at any rate right now.
Overnight we hit 33.25, and we just tapped that right now. We're in a bigger drop here. Got a nice 5-3-1 pattern. The 3-minute C bias is starting to angle back up.
Here we have a pullback here, Greg. 1 minutes. We're starting to turn to the green side. We had a little bit of spiking in the volume. Let's see what happens when these volumes and 317s turn. There we did have a signal there, Greg. On a 5A after a nice pullback, looking for these 317s, or sorry, volumes to turn. Nice EK spiking potentially here as well. I was in that last one at 33.75.
Pulled back 2.5 points off the bottom.
Yep. Volumes looking like they're starting to turn now. D bias slightly spiking down. Got my target below, ready to take my 3 ticks or lock it in. And I locked in my 3 ticks now at 33. And I just got taken out there, Greg. On that 5A, 3 ticks. We're pretty much at 10-point range here now, just right on the tips.
There we go.
Held there for a full point. We were in the 7-point range there for quite a bit of time. I didn't realize that we moved into the 10-point range, but just right there we did.
That's okay. We got 3 ticks. Low-hanging fruit. We got a point today. If we can average that all the time, we can just stop. We won't. But even that bigger drop down that came, even though the ergotics weren't the best on the 5 minute or the 3 minute at the beginning of the drop. The A, B, C, D biases were all very nice. And when one's been trading a little longer, you may want to, when you don't have strong or ergodic turns, but you see certain patterns like that come up.
Did have another little mini pullback there. There is another signal.
Our B and C biases are deep, but they're flat.
A bias is still pretty deep though, 5A. Basically need these volumes and 317s to start kicking around again to the downside. Did have a move down already, Greg, as you say, from 37-ish down to 31. So a 6-point move already. Be good to get a bit of a bigger pullback here, as we mentioned. We had a little uptick there to 32.50, then it moved down without a signal. The signal came in a little bit of that sideways motion. Here we're having a bit of a bigger pullback, which is nice to see. Volumes and maybe 1 minutes starting to turn with the 317s. The A bias is now a little bit flat, so we no longer have the 5A. In fact, in that push there, it looks like it was a decent one volume up, though we were looking for something on the downside. See that 110 minute is now starting to turn green as well, Greg. Don't have the angle, though it is starting to return on the A bias subsequent to that signal coming in. So again, not one that we were able to take in a timely fashion when the signal came in with the setup in place. In fact, it's not even in place right now, though there is a little bit of a curve down in the A bias. 3 minute starting to curve as well. Both the B and the C bias are up, and the I attack looks like it's moving toward green, as is the H. Three minutes starting to turn. That second 10 minutes has gone flat green. G attack cross green, potentially H as well. And EK spike right there. That was super quick, Greg, just as the 3 minutes were turning as well on that signal. It actually moved ahead more than half a point. I actually did get in there at 34 and got it at 34.50. But that did come in super quick, even ahead of being able to address it.
Those are the nice ones. The point of resistance right here at 35.
We get a little bit more curve in that bottom 10 minute. We might have the start of a setup 10. But in the midst of this, if we can get a pullback with the 3 minutes, We might have something around the base 3 going up, which may develop into something around the base 10. We're in the middle of the 10-minute and 5-minute and 3-minute channels.
Got a strong H attack and B bias, C bias, I attack. Got the G attack coming in as well too.
We're up 5 points off the bottom there, so let's look for perhaps a bit of a bigger pullback when these 1 minutes turn. We may not get it. Let's look for something here. Here we do have a bit of a bigger pullback, about a point. 3 minutes starting to turn. Very close to a 3C up. See the volumes and the minutes, our 317s begin to turn into this as well. And again, also an S10. Very close to a 10B there, though we just went flat. But we can see a nice spike in the C bias for a 3C right now, I attack cross.
You like to see a little more angle on those 10-minute ergs. The top one's turned up nicely. The bottom one, you like to see it starting to angle up a bit more. Just with, I like that G attack coming in.
For a setup 10, you just need the curve, but yeah, the G attack is very nice. And the angle and the bias in agreement is nice as well. The 3C is backed off here a little bit. As these 1 minutes have turned a bit, it's muted that. We might go sideways here just a little bit till things consolidate. .317 channel line support there, 34-ish. That move there up was really all focused around the 1 minutes, just watching those 1 minutes, and it just pushed it straight up. Of course, huge bias in the E as well assisted that. And really that developed out of just a little bit of an EK up there from the 31.25 level, and then it just perpetuated itself. So 10 minutes of turn, so our mind is looking now more towards something on the upside. See these volumes now starting to turn to the green side. We got the 1 minutes turning to the red, so they're working opposite to each other right now. I'd like to see them come back into alignment, into sync.
Starting to move up here. Our two trend lines in the 317 are converging. Just had a buy signal.
Starting to see an EK spike there on that signal, Greg. Not as strong as what you'd like to see, but certainly there. And I did get a half a point on that. We now have very strong 3 minutes and a nice G attack cross there.
I was tempted to take a point on that one.
I just, well, I had
It
my
just
bracket
shot
set
up.
for the EK, so
I put my
switch it.
target high and it went up, and I ended up taking half a point just like you did.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was going to
And
scoot.
yeah, and it looks like it's still we're gonna need a pullback here, but um, you know, it had really moved ahead from 34 to 35.75 is where that, or 36 where that signal came in. So it was already a 2-point advance. That was even, in my mind, potentially a late EK, but it really started to spike there with the 3 minutes turning nicely up. So it was a good one to take. It worked out for half a point. Actually, as you say, it would have, well, it's still pressing right now, but would have worked out even for a point at the end of it. But half a point puts us at 2 points on the day right now. Let's look for a pullback. And very close to a 10A. In fact, Greg, that last signal was also, as we've been talking about in advance, a setup 10. I don't think I was clear that I got in on that as a setup 10 as well, the same level, 36. A little bit more of a straightening that A bias for a 10A. Nice 3-minute ergs are up. The C bias looks like it's starting to spike nicely. I know we had another series of arrows there, but only starting to get that C bias in, starting to get that D bias in right now. It may push up, it may push through. So just in terms of this setup 10, I have my 4-point stop in at 36, so that's at 32. And I'm just going to trail this. This is kind of like one of those buy and leave ones. Starting to move up here. Looks like based on the 317s.
And of course, you bring it up your stop to break even as soon as it
As
makes
you're
sense.
able.
Yeah.
Yeah. 36 right now as a break even is right below that 317 channel line, which is appropriate right now. And I've done that. And what we are starting to see potentially is another EK spike here. Got our A bias now with a little bit better angle, Greg, not as curved. B bias coming in as well, so we can see ourselves having another little bit of a pullback here. We might have our 10A as well to get in on. And Greg, I'm actually at 38.25, and I'm just gonna, because we're ahead 2 points, and I'm just considering taking and locking the 4 points with this setup 10 sitting right now at 2.5 points. And I did just take it out at 38.50 for that setup 10. That was 2.5 points on that one.
Getting close to the 10-minute channel line. If we break there, we could be heading up to 46.
Part of the consideration for taking that setup 10 profit where it was.
No problem with locking in points. Still in the bottom part of our 10-minute ergs. Could still have room to go there on that setup 10. Again, we're at a point of decision. You see that 10-minute trend line? We've moved up. Eight points off the bottom. So getting near upper end of our day. So we've got a nice strong move.
Just to reiterate that setup 10, and of course it is actually still in play. I did take out there for two reasons. One, it locked in just a little over 4 points on the day, and two, we're at the 10-minute channel line as a point of potential resistance here. We are spiking here again. There's a signal on a 10A, Greg, and but the setup 10 itself works a little bit differently. Usually we like to see the strong angles, 45 degrees when we're in a 10-point plus range in the ergs and or the bias, depending on which is the key component of the three-part component of the audit. And but in the case of the setup 10, we need to see, especially when it turns from the bottom, some defined angle, discernible angle in the ergs and in the bias, and it also really helps for that attack cross to be the same as the direction that we want as well. In that case, that's what we had there. The time of, and we mentioned that, Greg, just before that as well, but we lost my train of thought when we took that EK as well, but it was approaching just as we were coming up to that EK that broke through that level, and it certainly did move up a little bit there for us to be able to lock in those 2.5 points there. Having a bit of a bigger pullback here as well.
Pulled back 2.25 points from our high.
Resistance level or support level here at 37. It did break through the 5-minute and 3-minute channel lines. It is seeming to bounce here off of the 10-minute channel, though it can be just pulling back for a move through. See the 10 minutes still up nicely angled. 317 starting to turn here. Need to see these volumes turn here, perhaps even the minutes. I just, that last white arrow, we can always consider doubling a position. The 10A was still good at the time. I did double my position on the 10A, improved my break even to 38.25. We've just gone flat and on the A bias, and I just got out there break even on the 38.25. If you are still in that 10A, looks like we might be starting to spike EK here, so it might be a warrant to potentially hold a little bit more, but just on the straight rules with the A going flat on that 10A, I did get out there at break even after my double. And it is starting to move ahead, and sometimes that's what happens. I kind of felt that that's what was going to happen, and I don't want to be trading on feelings here or moderating on feelings.
Emotion.
Right. And of course that was, on that signal too, was a good EK, as I mentioned there, but just was assessing the 10A at the same time. And it was a different decision basis there on that 10A versus that EK.
It's hard to talk about everything at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes you are looking at the bias there on the A, and you can miss what's happening all of a sudden on the smaller charts. But that certainly did motor. Would have been a nice impact on a double trade there from 38.25. That's for sure. And of course, the setup 10 ultimately is still continuing. I did take it out to lock in those 4.5 points total. And it was also a consideration when we did get in that 10A as well, that setup 10 was still there to get back in again on. Or if someone was in that and they continued to trade that, well, certainly moving your stop here is very important to trail this, to lock in profit. This continues to rise here. 40.75. And someone's just saying, did I get back in that 10A again after getting out? The answer is yes, I did, but that was what we had mentioned there on a pullback after locking that in. It was a 10A, setup 10, and then in managing that setup 10 or 10A, lost that angle. I did miss that EK though at the time, Greg, but got out of the 10A. Still tracked the setup 10 from that 38.25 level. I operated it the same as the 10A, so doubled. And trailing this, looking to just put that stop 39. Just a tick below that last little rest spot. Again, we have a 10B, which I think is a slightly better angle than the 10A right now, as another opportunity on this pullback.
When that A bias comes into green, we could see us shoot up even faster.
Yeah.
We broke the 10-minute trend line. to see us hit 46.
Yeah, we hit that point of resistance 40.75, bounced back 42.50 is the next high of the morning. Lost our B bias. No longer have a 10B. 10A, that bias is still there, though it looks like it's starting to curve a little bit.
Three minutes are curving at the top. Come back 2.5, 2 3/4 points. Sorry, 1 3/4 points from our top. See if we can push up through. Tapping on the high again.
EK's backed off. Certainly the 10A is still there. Here's a signal.
Here we go. Very nice.
And because I'm tracking my setup 10 at the same time, I'm looking just to manage on a point-by-point basis this 10A. Did touch on a point there at 41.75. I've moved my setup 10 to the 39.25 level, just below that 317 channel line. Volumes, ergodics starting to turn up a bit again, though the bias is just down at the moment. See some spiking in the 1 minutes. Bias D as well. Nice curve in the C bias. Spiking green, as you mentioned before, there in the A bias, Greg. And just with our advancing 317 channel line, I've moved the setup 10 to 39.75, which is 1.5 on a double basis. Setup 10A is also at break even 40.75.
Right at the 317 trend line. Buyers are holding their own here.
Some nice angle forming still on the A bias, and it's gone green, Greg.
Got a red 3-minute, but
Yeah.
but that A bias, as you said, has come in very nice and strong.
We might track a little sideways here in consolidation till we see a turn in the 1 minutes.
Had a little E
while
bias
the
spiking.
3-minute is turning here. Got my 10A target just a little bit higher. I'm gonna, well, I locked in the 141.75 and it just took me out there. And in terms of my setup 10, I've locked in 40.25, which is 2 points on the double basis, or I guess on a double basis it's 2 points. On a double basis it was 4 points. And again, if you had not been in just the prior 10A, before that little bit of a pullback to 40.25, that was another opportunity to get in there on that last series of arrows. And it would have poked you up there, perhaps touching on a point, and very likely filling shortly. We can see the C bias really starting to spike as well again. 3-minute went back to red, or went back to green. To have a 10, 5, even a 3 being green right now. Some nice angle on the C bias. And there can be another opportunity here for another 10A. And I've just moved my stop on my setup 10 to 40.75. Again, just below that 317 channel line, which is 2.5 points above the doubled break even of 38.25. There's nothing wrong with that 10A or setup 10, Greg. It still continues to be very strong. We'll see what kind of impact the 3 minutes trying to turn again will have. That C bias is very much straight up, though. Quite a strong bias weight to the green side there. Again, can look for that red arrow signifies the change in trend, as it were. Looking for now a white buy arrow here for this 10A if you're looking to get back in to a 10A. And where's the arrow? I did manage to get 42.25 on that one, Greg. 42.50 is our point of resistance, or the high of this morning, which we're just moving through. And let's see if we can move through here even up to 46.25. Touching on my point on this 10A. And did move through. I locked it in. I just took the 1 point there, Greg, on the 10A. And I'm continuing to trail my doubled setup 10. I've got it now 41.75. Almost ready to put it at 42.25, which would be 4 points. But on a double basis, 8 points. My doubled break even is 38.25. Right now my stop is 41.75. Just lost both the B and the C bias angle as those 3 minutes turned. 317 channel line here. Still have another opportunity on a 10A. I'd like to see, I do see some spiking with the F bias, Greg. And at this point, having broken through the 42.50, being up at 43.50 right now, there's really no point of resistance until the 46.50 here. Looking for another 10A signal. Did get it. I got in at 43.50 actually. Within 2 points of our bigger resistance level there at 46.25, 46.50. Touching on my 1 point on this just last series of arrows and filled on my setup 10A. I've now locked in my setup 10 at 42.75, which is 4.5 points off of the double break even, which is 9 points on a double basis, Greg. I'm going to see if I can trail this right to 40, 46, or even 46.25.
Well, we've had almost a 13-point run. If you look at the bottom, we hit 30.75. So almost 14-point run.
You just don't see a sharp angle on that A bias or that G attack separation or those 10 ergs. There's the perfect storm there in terms of a setup 10.
Yep. And after we broke that 10-minute channel, that's when we took our first profit to lock in our 4 points for the day initially. But everything came in stronger than after that. And coming up to a point of resistance here, 46.25. So anywhere in this range, as we get close to that spot, the market could back off a bit, especially given we've already moved up 14 points.
It has been a big move, that's for sure. It dropped from 40 down to 30, well, about a 9-point drop, and then, as you say, a 13-point climb. Almost a straight climb as well. But again, the 10 minutes have been perfect. There's another 10A signal. Have the 3 minutes starting to turn, which is maybe causing a little bit of a pullback effect. And my stop on the setup 10 is at 42.75.
Our A bias is flat with this pullback.
A bias is flat. I did get out there. At, well, 3 ticks down there.
I'm going to move back up. Part of the pullback, but you know what? We've done really well here today, so.
And I did just get stopped out of my setup 10 there. 42.75. Just 4.5 points on a doubled basis is 9. Points, which offsets that 3 tick loss there.
A little.
There's a question, Greg, about I guess trading strategy using ladders. In terms of what I do, if I'm looking at a setup 10 and say a 10A, if I can see that particular trade approaching here, we do have, with the 3 minutes having turned completely here, ones as well, we're having a bit of a bigger pullback, 2.5 points already, Greg, but I wouldn't be surprised that if we can finish this 1 minute cycle, that will begin to push up again, or perhaps wait for the 3 minute cycle as well. But at the end of the day, to hit that 46.25, so what
backed off 2 points, 2.5 points here from the high. Be interesting if we.
So in terms of the ladder there, Greg, and you're right, yeah, we've come back now almost 3 points. If I'm doing a setup 10 and a 10A, I'll have a group setting where I can just click on that group, which will give me the predefined bracket that I want and entries, and it's a multi-bracket kind of setting. So I'll just adjust my contracts appropriately. If I'm trading 5 contracts normally, I'll double it to 10, and in the multi we'll have 5 go in from the setup 10 perspective with a bigger target, and from a 10A perspective in this case at a 1 point target, and then I can manually adjust both the targets and the stops on that basis. On an EK, if an EK is coming, it doesn't look to be another bigger setup that is, well, there isn't a bigger setup already in place, I'll just readjust so that I'm just doing an EK with a target of 0.5 point, and I'll manually adjust that. If we're looking at, well, oftentimes we don't, if we see a setup that's already in place, a bigger setup that's already in place, a non-scalp, and an EK is coming in, that's really used almost as a confirmation of that bigger setup. So I will oftentimes just take that setup from a longer, you know, the 1 point perspective kind of thing, right? Not as an EK. So it's really, for me, Greg, just in terms of the setup 10 and anything else, that's where I'll use sort of a multi-bracket kind of perspective to capture and manage both trades ongoing there. EKs, if they're by themselves, are by themselves. If you can, while they're in play, transition to a bigger setup, I'll do that. Manually move that stop and target. And as I say, you don't often see an EK and a setup 10.5 or whatever it may be, 5.3. At the same time, if there is, you would trade that EK as that 5-3 setup. And then I just, take my regular contracts there and just have a different target and a different stop consideration. I think that answers that question, Greg. I don't know if you have anything else there.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of practice to have it all on one ladder. If you're going two different directions, depending on your ladder, the ladders that we use, going two different directions.
Here we are coming back up here, Greg. Sorry, we were saying before, when the 1 minutes start to turn, we might see this move back up again, and that's what we're seeing. Very strong EK, contrary to obviously the 3-minute ergodics, but very clearly a strong EK on its own merit. 317's volume. And all I needed to do was keep my setup 10 stop at 41.25 instead of 42.75, right?
And therein lies the challenge, right?
Therein lies the challenge. How much profit do you
How much profit do you give up? Yep.
Yeah. There was nothing there for us to take in that respect. We're now starting to see a 1D come in, but we've obviously moved ahead 3 points very quickly and are super close to that horizontal resistance at 46.25. As this is beginning to rise, though, Greg, I'm almost thinking this may break through that, but at any rate, that was also, and I didn't do it, I didn't really think about it at the time because we were talking about the entries there, but that last signal on that move up again would have been another entry for that set of 10, which is still very strong. And certainly that would be another 2.5, 3 points locked in there had we done that. But I didn't think about it at the time I was talking about that ladder activity.
You get too many points here and people won't believe you. Just a point a day, Darren. A point a day is all we need to do.
And here's our point of resistance, 46.25, and just like I opined about.
Yep.
We did break through. This wasn't really a strong pullback, so that SPY signal wasn't something that we could have even considered after moving ahead 4 points. And I think, Greg, thinking back, I did muse about getting in that setup 10 there again on that pullback, but I was talking about the trading ladder and whatnot, but I think at that point in time that A bias might have been a little bit flat in respect of considering a setup 10 there. I'm not sure if you had watched that.
We got out of the previous 10A because the A bias went flat. And that was a couple points ahead, right? So it was flat, if not angled down a little bit, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we do the setup 10, we'd like to see a nice angle on that A bias. Or, well, we like to see it angled up a bit. We don't need the 45-degree angle like we like for the other trades. It's a more aggressive type of trade. It certainly did come into a strong setup 10 after it was moving up, though. But we are at a significant point of resistance right now in this area. So let's see what the market's going to do here. We see our A bias again is backed off.
Our 5 minutes are starting to go flat. B bias is actually angled up. But yeah, as you say, I mean, a 13-point rise, I would expect something to come back here in a sharper way, just given the range right now from 30.50 to 46.50, 16 point run there. So that really is huge. The way the 10-minute ergs are, though, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something more in there, but let's see if the 5 minutes turning give us a bit more of a pullback here. We may not see that if these 317s and volume begin to press up here. We may see ourselves touch 46.75 again, even extend it a little bit more. Possible even to extend it to 48 or 49 area. With the A bias turning down there, that may signal a little bit of a dampening of that strength of buying. Here we do have a white arrow, a buy arrow. Not technically a 10B on that arrow, but we are at that major point of resistance, as you've pointed out. It's one of those gives you pause for consideration.
Yeah, depending, you can see that B bias wavering a little bit. Depending on the tick, it angles up nicely and starting to back off a bit. Certainly, if we can get through the 46.75, 46.50 here, we could. The next spot would be 56. Be another 10-point run.
I'm tracking this 10B though, Greg, just for the sake of tracking it, because it is there. Did get in at 46.25. Keep our eye on that B bias. And again, challenging testing this 46.50-ish point of resistance. 10 ergs continue to be strong though. Nice G attack, H attack separation. Still strong C bias as well. Starting to flatten on the B bias a bit. And one red 5 minute.
Given we lost the setup, I got out at break even.
The B's starting to come down a bit. Yeah.
You need that angle. for the B bias.
And it's gone now, yep. I did actually take a tick loss on that one. And that was worth a chance there to see if that would break through and give another couple of point run. But just when you do that, you really got to watch those ergodic, or watch those setups.
Yep, watch the bias. When we got in, we saw that the B bias was actually flickering a bit. We mentioned that, depending on the tick movement. And you know what? We could still come. We've just come back a point and a half. We could still turn around.
Yep. Yeah, they're still waiting in those B and C and A biases to the green side. Once the minutes and the volumes begin to turn, 317s cycle up. We do have a support at 44.75. This could press up again.
Two-point pullback now.
And a series of signals before any EK consideration. 3 minutes are in agreement, as are the 1 minutes. But nothing, we didn't have anything there to consider that. 10-minute ergodic still straight up. Even though they're angled down, A, B, and C bias still thickly green. So even though there is a weighting toward the red side, toward the sell side, it hasn't really overtaken the buyers yet. See what happens when the ones and the volumes turn here. If we have another push up, 5-minute ergodic turning with an H attack red coming potentially, and that may give us a little bit more strength down here. Keep in mind Greg just essentially bounce off that 46.25 level, and it could be a turnaround point here with a strong turn in the 5 minutes, followed by potentially turn in the 10 minutes. See a G attack maybe approaching as well. And if we get angled down in that A bias with a turn in the 5 minutes, we might have a 5A down after a pullback to consider. Starting to see a turn in the 1 minutes here again. We have slowed down quite a bit here.
Had a lot of activity here the past hour and a half. Started high, dropped 10, 12 points, bounced back another 16.
Yeah.
A little better than yesterday.
C-buy is coming down toward the red. 1 minute's turning up though. Let's see if this may develop into an EK down though. Starting to see that, Greg. See a red arrow on an EK down here. And it looks like it's backing off. The 1 minutes are turning instead. It's a possibility here. Oh, bias is flat. Might still have some upward momentum here with these 1 minutes turning. We got this EK coming in on a tick basis here. You get a signal on a breakthrough here. It did come in there. And I did fill 2 ticks there on that EK. Just as both 5 minutes went red. May also be a 3B going down here, Greg, almost as a continuation. I didn't pay too much attention to that there. Certainly would have touched on the point level, but strong EK at the time. Just took it from that perspective.
You don't have to get every point or every tick that's out there. Be happy with the low-hanging fruit.
Well, we can see a bigger pullback here.
Something that I had to learn.
Yeah. We can see a bigger pullback here. We might have, in that case, a very nice 3C or 3B. It may even at that point be a 5A. And starting to see a bit of a curve in the top 10 minute. At any rate, that was an EK that we did track there for half a point.
EK going up without the 3 minutes. See if this would have paid off.
Five B on that last signal, as we talked about potentially looking for, Greg. Need to break through 4250. 4250 was a point we had to break through on the way up here. Did get in at 43 there.
Oh, good.
Tens starting to flatten and maybe turn into this, Greg. Tapping through that 42 level. Looks like 4175 might be a point of support here from the way up. 3 minutes we're starting to turn, but they've actually gone back to red. C bias is down, so I made a little bit of a move up here with the 317s and volumes. Need to wait through this 5A is still good though. Nice 5 minutes still. Waiting for these 317s to turn. Volumes, 1 minute, volumes starting to turn here. E-bias starting to come down. Nice. Not as strong of a battering ram here, but certainly a pullback and a drop again, Greg. We've had more activity earlier today for sure. Turn in the 317s. You've seen a turn in the 1 minutes here. Certainly slowed down though, Greg.
We backed 3.5 points off our high. Market oftentimes goes in cycles. A lot of trading, then it subsides a bit, then trades more, and we've had a big run up here. I've got a question about the brackets that we set for EK. Typically for EKs, we go for a tick to 2 ticks. If it's a tighter market, a tighter range, we'll just go for a tick. If it's a bigger range, and we had that much bigger range earlier today, when the market's moving much more, we'll typically go for 2 ticks. Set or stop a point. Of course, you can always move those if you need to. But the EKs are meant to be a shorter term trade where you just get an easy, quick tick or 2 ticks.
So still good with this 5B. B is now going into red, and we again have just dropped down to the 42.50 level. As you say, Greg, sometimes a tick or two ticks when it's taking this long to move down. We do see the 1 minute starting to turn here. We do see E bias moving down with somewhat of a K attack. Spike down a little bit in the F bias as well. And we may begin to move down here slightly. It's slow moving though. $42.50 touching $42.25. And it could break through here. 42 is my 1 point target. Let's move through that. I've just taken my 42. So just after I locked in that 42, it did move down another few ticks, so it's right back up to it here. So holding off just a slight moment and locking in 42 would have given me the same outcome here. 1 point on the 5B.
You have to wait for a pullback before you want another possible entry.
Right, no, I was just saying in terms of a trailing thing. If I had have held off a second or two more, should have locked in 42, but it would have come back right now.
Yep.
And the same result. And we're also looking at a 5A as well now. I think I like that bias angle in the A as it's angling down more now.
See, our 3 minutes are at the bottom of their run.
They have been there for quite a while. They had been turning there before and had since straightened out, as has the bias C angled down again too. So
and we've got a large eye attack.
Keep your eye on that though.
Yeah, we've got a large eye attack. If we see that eye, the green line on the eye starting to come up, that might be a prelude to the 3 minute ergs turning.
Potentially, yeah.
One of our 10 minutes just went red, a little bit of red bias on the A with a red attack cross, the G attack. On the G attack, a red cross.
3 minute flashing green again. Might get a pullback up to our 43.25 or even 43.75 level.
The EK is coming in without the 3 minute.
One 10-minute red.
That red A bias has gone back to green. It's flickering. At the 317 trend line, EK's come in even stronger.
Here we're starting to see, after the pullback there, back to the 5B, even 5A. Three-minute flashing green. Both 3 minutes are now green, so we might have a little bit of a push up here. Flattened on the 5B, flattened on the 5A. So we're not looking at anything right now. If we move here, we might see something come in around the base 3, maybe an EK in that direction. It might be at the 44 or 25 bubble though.
Three 317 trend lines have come together here.
Yep. Almost into an EK up here, 3 minutes in agreement. Maybe looking for a white arrow. I did fill there at 44.75, so half a point on that EK. Actually looking like it's turning into a 3D as well. It looks like it'll press here a little bit more. Nice spiking in the D. Already out of that EK 44.25 to 44.75, but Let's look for another opportunity. We now have a 3-1 as well. In terms of my bracket for an EK, someone's asking about that. I do have one set up. I do have it set up, Greg, for half a point profit and 5-tick stop. But I do manually adjust that. So if it has to turn into say whatever, a 5-3 or whatever on a transition basis, I'll manually adjust that. Or if we're working and operating in less than a 10-point range, I'll bring that half-point target down manually to the tick. It's kind of how I operate that.
So pretty similar to what I do.
Pretty similar to what?
Yeah, to what I was saying earlier.
To what you do, right?
That I normally do a 4-tick loss. But there, yeah, as we were saying earlier, when it's in a tighter range, sometimes we just go for a tick. Today we got a much larger range. We get over 10 points. It's much easier to get 2 ticks up. Well, even now we saw this last one. And a few of the other ones earlier, we could have, if we'd held on, we could have got 3 ticks or even a point. But they're meant to be shorter term trades. Down to our last minute here, Darren.
Yeah.
What a ride.
Indeed. Well, we had our regular tracking there, ended up having 4.5 points, Greg, there. Had early on had an EK for a tick and then 5A for 3 ticks, and we broke beyond our 10-point range. Got a couple of EKs for half a point each, and then a set up 10 for 2.5 points. Gave us 4.5 points. And since then, our extras tracking, gosh, I'm tracking 13 extra points there. The big component of that was that second opportunity at a set up 10 where I ended up doubling and secured 4.5 points, which was 9 points on that double factor on a set up 10. And then 10As, we had several of those in the midst of that longer setup 10 move. One of them got at a break even, got 3 successive points on 3 trades, and then lost 3 ticks on the next one. 2.75 point total. Lost a tick on 10B, just gained a point there on that 5B prior to that last EK, and we had 2 separate EKs for half a point each. That gave us a total of 13 points on the extras, 4.5 on the regular tracking, 17.5 total on the day, which is a marked change from from yesterday. Of course, the market was operating different than it was yesterday for us as well too. A lot more trending. You can see the ergs even right now; they're all still working well together.
Amazing. All we need is a point a day. Anyway, great work here today, Darren. And nice having these bigger ranges to play in. Lots of opportunity.
It certainly does make it a lot easier for sure, and there's more excitement built into it as well. Yesterday was a little challenging, but again, when you're not trending, it can be challenging, and you may not have as many trades. You may miss moves, but if it's not trending, oftentimes you don't want to be in the market. And of course, if it's not trending, then the software doesn't really provide many opportunities, and that's ultimately probably the best thing in a non-trending day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Darren, for all that you did today. As we always say, everyone, if you're on this afternoon, watch for the nice angles on the ergodics and the biases. Good strong setups. Cherry pick. You don't have to get into every setup. Make sure it's a strong setup, one you feel comfortable with, and practice. Practice. And track your practice. When you're doing practice trades, monitor what the setup is like, if it's a strong setup or if it's a weaker setup, and then if it paid off or not. Those are always good, useful tools for when you go back to go over your trades to see how well you did, and if trades are winning or losing, if there's any patterns that come in to help you in your journey as a trader. Anyway, thanks again for everyone for being here today, and we'll see everyone back here tomorrow morning.